The Balclutha's bosun crew, mate Prithvi, Brian, Charlotte, Austin, Priya, Aditi, and Sophia, had few duties but very challenging ones, such as ringing the bells for the stern bell, learning to swab the deck, swabbing it over and over again, and taking soundings to get the depth of the water.
Each time we were taught a new task by our first mate, Mr. Mantor, we seemed to be terrible at it. We hauled the hawser, a thick, heavy rope on board, without letting it drag on the ground. Every time it did, Mr. Mantor yelled at us again. It seemed like he was always yelling at us. Although we had many struggles, we prevailed. It felt great to hear the first mate finally telling us that we had done something correctly. We learned the best of everyone in our crew through this voyage.
We had to trust each other to complete tasks which we were assigned. We discovered how hard the sailor's life. Prithvi said, "As the mate, I learned that leadership is not as easy as it looks. In fact, it is not easy at all, when the captain or the first mate would be barking an order down your neck, and you have to relay the order back to your crew. The voyage was awesome."
Charlotte said, "Age of Sail was so helpful. I saw how we had to rely on each other. Teamwork was the only way to get things done." Brian said, "I learned that listening to directions is way more important than you think."
Austin said, "I learned at Age of Sail is that not everyone does the right thing at the right time, and also to obey orders and not to disobey."
Priya said, "I have learned that teamwork was very important more than anything else during this voyage."
Aditi said, "I learned that working together makes things go faster. Teamwork was the key to unlock the door of a sailor's life."
Sophia said, "Even though I was not present, it was certainly an adventure I would hate to miss."
But we had a lot of fun too. Whenever the captain or the first mate was not looking, we would put our hands in our pockets and step over ropes. We were so lucky to be able to go on such a life-changing voyage. Overall, for the bosun crew, this was such a life-changing experience and a very epic one too.
Hi, I am Yamini.
I am Thanu.
I am Luther. I am Joshua. I am Matthew.
I am Danning.
I am Vina.
We are the deckhand crew.
This is a picture of us before the Age of Sail eating lunch.
This is San Francisco Bay where the Balclutha dwells in the waters.
Thankfully, we got off that bus. Now we can explore the Balclutha.
When we arrived at the shipping office, we met a person that had stepped out of the 1900s.
His name was Mr. Clyde. He helped us get ready and also introduced us to Mr. Bonk.
His name, Mr. Bonk, had curly hair that could be used to mop the deck. He was a very silly man, but was helpful, teaching us how to behave around the captain and Mr. Mantor, and helped us learn the ways of the Balclutha.
He introduced us to Mr. Mantor, aka Mr. Mentor.
This is Mr. Mantor, and Mr. Mantor is a very strict man who introduced us to the captain. This is Mr. Mantor and Mr. Bonk.
The captain assigned the crews our very first jobs. Our first job was to find the lines or ropes that we were going to use to raise the flag.
After we found the lines, Mr. Mantor told us to attach the flag or ensign. We couldn't raise the ensign the first couple of times, but with teamwork and expert cooperation, we were able to complete our first task. He then called us off to ring the bells for bell time.
After we practiced 3 times raising and lowering the flag, Mr. Mantor told us to raise the ensign in front of all the crews while we sang shanties.
Our next task was to heave the hawsers onto the poop deck. Hawsers are long, thick ropes that are used to tie the ship to the deck. It was really, really hard to heave them onto the deck, but when we cheered and supported each other on, we were able to heave them.
After that job, we had dinner.
Mr. Mantor got angry because our volume had gone way up during dinner, and so he sent us up to the pier. We were the last one to get on the ship.
After we came onto the deck, Mr. Mantor told us to haul buckets of seawater. Our hands were paining from the cold and wet lines. The only way we were able to do it was with teamwork and cooperation.
Next, we had dog watch. We sang chanties and got our mail from home.
We then had night watch. We took the first shift to go out. It was freezing cold and was very tempting to keep our hands in our pockets. We each had to write a journal entry. After there was only 20 more minutes to wake up the rigger crew, we tried to wake them up. It was very hard.
We then were allowed to go to sleep. Joshua hit his head on the ceiling. It was very cold and hard to sleep in bed.
Breakfast was filling, but got very, very cold. We also had to haul hawsers again from the ship to the pier.
After that, we went for our morning dog watch. The captain showed us his quarters.
The captain then told us he was not able to keep paying us, so he turned us over to Mrs. Plumondon.
We went home after that. Home sweet home.
The rigger crew, Anya, Madavi, Preeti, Itai, Kingsley, Nikhil, and Aroma, set out for an exciting adventure on January 4th. None of them knew what was in store for them. The shipping agent, Mr. Clyde, appointed the rigger crew to the Balclutha. They were soon assigned jobs aboard the ship and were sent up to the poop deck to complete their duties.
Their first assignment was to coil a rope, and our first 4 attempts failed us miserably. We were disciplined and had to set up galley utensils for stepping over ropes and stepping in them, and generally stepping in the wrong place.
Coiling rope hurt our hands.
We learned a new skill that we would have never learned before.
Even though it was hard, we learned it works better in a group.
It was hard, but it was fun.
I learned how to coil.
It was hard to coil ropes properly, but after much time and practice, it became easier.
Everybody learned it takes effort and teamwork to coil a rope.
The other main job of the rigger crew was to make and raise the bosun's chair.
Everyone worked together to get supplies, make the chair, and raise crewmates into the air. The captain told us to mouse the hook, but sadly our lives couldn't depend on the knot. We also failed at the bowline knot, and we finally had to ask the captain to do it for us. At long last, we raised Anya, Preeti, and Itai. Most people think it's scary, but it is really fun going up in the chair.
It was scary, but fun.
Cool and it had a great view.
People also have a lot to say about building the chair.
Building the chair was hard, but it was worth it to see Anya, Preeti, and Itai 15 feet in the air. Building the chair was fun.
Building the chair took my mind off other things like the cold.
The rigger crew was also the only crew who went up on the bow. You should have seen the size of that anchor. It was huge.
Night watch was also crucial. Everyone had to write in the logbook. The temperature was very cold and our crew was half asleep.
We also have some strong opinions about our voyage.
Age of Sail was hard and cold but fun. It was very cold, but now I understand the real hardships of seaman's life.
It was very fun and taught us good teamwork.
It was hard, tiring, and different from anything I'd done before.
It was cold, exciting, difficult, and worth every minute.
It was bitter cold, but the activities were fun, and the view was gorgeous.
Greetings, this is the galley crew with the galley mate Mira, the crew Hiba, Felicity, Ellie, and Abro.
Here's the ship we boarded, the Balclutha.
This is Mrs. Kota. She made sure that no one in the galley crew got hurt or sick. Here's Mr. Sengupta. He helped Abro. We learned to trust them and each other in many ways.
This is the captain. He is in command of the ship. He is nice if you don't upset him.
This is Mr. Mentor, and he is very strict. Next to Mr. Mentor is the second mate, Mr. Bunk, and is funny, but now always listens and follows directions.
The man in the picture is Piles. He was the chef with the galley crew. He was also the doctor if we ever needed him. Piles was very funny. We learned to cooperate with him.
Look, this is the galley, or what we call the kitchen.
This is the larder. This is where the galley crew got materials and their ingredients.
This is the galley crew cutting vegetables. We learned to do teamwork during the voyage.
This is galley mate serving captain coffee. The captain tastes the coffee and says that he likes it. That means that we were going to have a good journey. The galley crew had a fun time on Age of Sail
Trip.
Hello, we are the boat crew.
I'm Camille and I was the mate.
Connie, Jeffrey, Jason, Gayatria, and Peggy were the other lads.
When we got to the Balclutha, we learned the basics of being on the ship and all the officers' names.
Our first task was raising and lowering the dory.
I shouted a specific order of commands, and the crew had to carry out those orders in unison.
After we practiced raising and lowering the dory, we had to test in front of the captain.
The captain appeared out of nowhere during our last practice.
We passed the test by 1 point with a score of 16 out of 20.
After we each ate a ration of food for dinner, we had to wash the dishes.
A few of us had to scrape out the extra food left over from the containers, which is called mucking.
The unlucky souls had to wash the dishes in cold water and the lucky ones in warm water.
After we washed all of the dishes, we dumped the water into Tubby. Then we rinsed the tubs with Black Snaky.
Our last task before bedtime was rowing the longboat.
The longboat was called the Cutter J.
We struggled with backwatering because the current was against us, but luckily front watering was easier than usually.
We pretended to eat and barf corn to row.
While in the longboat, we saw a seal only 5 feet behind the longboat, which was very cool.
From 1:30 to 3:30 a.m., we had to stand night watch.
All of us agreed that it was freezing and completely silent.
A few of us thought that night watch was peaceful, but the rest of us thought that it was boring.
After a few more hours of sleep, we ate breakfast.
Again, we got the lucky job of washing the dishes.
Everyone's last job was hauling the hawsers.
Before we left, we got to tour the captain's quarter and experience one last dog watch.
We then left the Balclutha, and so ends our trip.
During the whole trip, we had to learn to be able to keep on track with time limit,
Listen,
learn how to do chores,
be responsible,
go with the flow,
leadership,
how to work together,
time management,
cooperation,
trust,
and teamwork.
We were proud with every accomplishment and ashamed with every failure, but we never gave up.
Age of Sail was a wonderful learning experience, and we will never forget it.
Oh, the times were hard and the wages low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her.